What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the GSN Sports Network podcast. I'm your host, John J. II. Thank you so much for joining us Wednesday, the 24th of September, 2025. We're getting close. We're getting close to another sports eclipse. It's like a lunar eclipse, a little less rare, a little more common, but still very interesting. We're getting to the end of the MLB season. We're already in the preseason for NHL. And it's exciting. You got Champions League soccer, you got the Coppa Italia, you got NFL football, you got college football, and you got the Ryder Cup, which that's what this show is all about. We're going to talk all about the Ryder Cup 2025 taking place at Bethpage Black, one of the hardest golf courses in the world. I mean, it's up there with Oakmont. It's up there with Pinehurst. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, give you some of Sobo's interpretations of the tournament. And I've always looked up to the Ryder Cup. It's always been a tournament that I've looked at, and I've looked at it with awe. I've looked at it really to admire the game of golf even more, but it's the team component along with the competitiveness, the multi-format model that they've adopted, and it's a really great tournament. So first and foremost, we got to talk about Sister Jean. She retires at the age of 106. Hats off and handshakes in the crowd to Sister Jean. Obviously, she rose to fame being the chaplain, being the sister, which she is for the Loyola Chicago Ramblers as they made a run a few years back in the men's college basketball tournament in March Madness. And we don't want to talk too much about March Madness because we haven't even got to basketball season yet. That basically completes the lunar eclipse of sports going into winter. Then you go into the spring. And then really the next thing you have to look forward to is March Madness, which kind of wraps everything up after the college football playoff, after the NFL championship game, the Super Bowl. After that takes place, after the playoffs take place for the NFL. So we want to kind of take things one step at a time. We're getting into the early stages, and now we're already looking back at week 3 of NFL football, which kind of seems crazy. Going into the latter half of September, it's already week 3 going into week 4 for NFL. So it's going to be gone before we know it. We know it's going to be gone before we know it. But we got to enjoy it while it's here. And that's the message that I sent out last week, and I sent it out this week, and we're going to keep sending it out because I have to reiterate the fact that you can't take these things for granted. These are sporting events that we have to watch, that we watch with awe, that we watch with great admiration. And it's easy to let it slip by. It's easy to put on a college football game where it might be UAB versus UCF. And you're like, you know what? It's college football, but I don't really give a shit about these teams. So I'm trying to get us away from that. Or an NHL game. You got the Winnipeg Jets playing against the Anaheim Ducks. A game maybe you don't really care about too much. But if that's the only game that's on, you're dialed into that game, maybe you got some coin on that game, then take pride in that game. Take pride in watching that game. Don't just be like, okay, I don't give a shit that this on. Because let's be honest, there's only a certain amount of sporting events that you're going to watch from here on out. And I don't mean to get nostalgic. I don't mean to get sappy, cheesy, etc., because that's not what I'm here to do. But that means don't take any sporting event for granted. And we can't watch every sporting event. It's just impossible. There's not enough hours in the day to do this, first of all. We don't have enough TVs to do it, second of all. And it's just not doable. It's not doable. Watch what you can and when you can, but don't take it for granted. Doesn't matter what sport it is, because the seasons are too short. The seasons are far too short. So that's my little tidbit of the day. We'll talk about some Johnny Golf-esqueness and talk about how the league for the 2025 season at Briar Ridge went. Now, it's not to be somber. It's not to be sad. It's not to be melancholy. And that's not what I'm setting up to do. We're only going for the highest of vibes tonight. But to talk about the golf league, the Monday Men's League, it finished strong. I think we finished strong. T and I finished strong. We played well, had a couple tough holes. I don't want to say there was any nerves. We were in the playoffs. We were ready for it. We were coming out poised. We were hitting our shots, taking lines with committing mentality, commitment, strong commitment, and we could walk away with our heads held high. This is where it's kind of bullshit, and it really penalizes. And I'm not crying the blues, but this is where it penalizes the good golfers. You're looking at an individual that might be a 15 or 17 handicap. They're used to hitting mid 50s, maybe even a 60 here or there, which is just blasphemous. It's just unheard of. And then every once in a while, every blue moon or other, they shoot a 45 or the 47. Okay, now you got to think about how they're playing in a round of 9 holes, pars 36. If you shoot a 47 and you're an 18 handicap, I mean, you do the math. You're only 11 over, but you're an 18 handicap. So with that being said, you're cutting 7 strokes. So essentially with the handicap, you're 7 under. So for me as a 5 handicap, or gentleman that runs our league, he's a 2 or a 1. Just do the math on what we'd have to do to compete with that. There's not enough strokes. There's not enough room to gain. If you don't play to your handicap and you play on the opposite side where you're playing, lights out, playing your ass off kind of thing, then there's really no way that you can compete with these individuals that are pulling a great round out of their ass. And I'm not bitter about it. But there's something wrong. There's something wrong with the handicap system. Okay, there's something wrong with the handicap system when it penalizes to the umpteenth degree the good golfers, the golfers that are sub 5 handicaps, maybe even 6. Okay, maybe even 6. So just a little food for thought. It doesn't benefit the good golfers, the handicap system, the handicap model. It benefits the shitty golfers, and that's with all due respect. It benefits the poor golfers that are racking up the scores and getting an 18 handicap, but also shooting mid 40s every once in a while. So I digress. Listen, I know I'm preaching to the choir. I'm barking up the wrong tree. I'm really, I'm not really gonna get anywhere with these claims, and I don't really give a shit. It just has to be said. Somebody had to say it, and who else but me to shed some light on the subject. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do tonight. Looking forward into fall golf. Obviously, fall golf, it holds a very special place in my heart. It's one of the best times of year to play golf. It's one of the best times to get out there and enjoy the crisp air, the crisp weather. And it's kind of a glimmer of somberness looking forward into the cold months that are right around the corner. Snow will be flying before we know it. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but listen, that's the reality of the situation, ladies and gentlemen. You chose to live in, in the Great Lakes area in the Midwest. And that's the climate we have to deal with. We have to deal with sub-zero temps and snow and ice. That's the life we chose. So enjoy it while it's here. That's my tip. Enjoy the fall golf. We're getting into some of the best days. A lot of courses have been doing their aeration procedures, and they've healed up pretty good. At least at RYDER, they healed up great following the outing, especially on the 13th, and now a couple weeks beyond that. The greens have really healed up well, and they're cutting them lower again, which really is exciting going into October and even November. Some of the best days of golf are yet to come. So keep that in mind and get out there, play around before you put the clubs away. So we got to talk about the pro capper. We got to talk about teams. But listen, Robert is in Europe. So we're going to save that for when he gets back to talk about the teams, to talk about grading the teams, and talk about different procedures that have happened within the league. Now, you got your guys in the league that they like to run their mouths. They like to flap their gums, and it might ruffle some feathers a little bit. And we're not going to name names, but there's individuals that might not know how to compose themselves in a certain scenario. Now, whether or not that be the case, whether or not being said that's the reality of the situation with these individuals and within the dynamic of the league, that is the current state of affairs. So to deal with that is difficult. It's difficult for a commissioner. It's difficult for a league owner. And this, in lieu of Robert being gone, in lieu of Robert being here, rather, I've assumed the role of commissioner. Now I'm the league owner. I deferred the duties of the commissioner to Robert for this exact reason. I didn't want to deal with any bullshit. I want to have a set of rules. I want to have a set of parameters in place. And if they change, it can be a liquid scenario as well. If we can decide to make rules changes that will benefit the entirety of the league, then I'm all for it. Okay, I'm all for it. I want peace. I want a good league dynamic, and I want diplomacy. Okay, I want a democracy within the league. I don't think that's too much to ask, but doing that, it requires a written set of rules. It requires a written set of parameters that are essentially unbiased, and they act as a third party. And every other third party that we can use to eliminate the possibility of collusion, which is obviously the arch nemesis of the framework of any league, you can eliminate the possibility of collusion, anarchy, whatever, what have you. Those third-party systems are in place to prevent these things. So they're, in essence, necessary to exist. So we're working on it. We're working on it. I really don't think there is a silver bullet to fix this situation. There's nothing that can solve the problem, solve the equation. There's no golden set of parameters that can fix it. But to maintain team cohesion, league cohesion, it's easier said than done. And anybody that's accomplished that, please share it with me, because we got some kinks to work out. It's not that bad. Okay, it's not that bad. But here's the thing. We've been working on it this is going to be the third year of the Pro Capper. This is our third year. So I want to see some progress within the team or league dynamic, league cohesion. Now, it's not everyone. It's not everyone. You got your bad eggs. You got your individuals that are studs, per se, that like to stand out. So we'll leave it be at that. But listen, I'm not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about who's going to rise to the top, who's doing good, who's doing terrible, who is 0-3, who is 3-0, who's 1-2, who's 2-1, who's in the middle of the pack, who's at the top of the pack, and who's at the bottom. Okay, now I'm not going to be here to toot my own horn. All right, I'll talk about my other league. So I got to give a shout out to Larry, my buddy Larry, and Sam Vitale for getting me involved in the McCarthyism league, which is the other league I'm in. That's the Pro Capper, and it's McCarthy. So thank you guys for hosting me and having me in that league. I'm 2-1 in that league. Larry, I got to hand it to you. You got me. Ozempic. All right, you got me. But I got to say something. I got to make some excuses. All right. And this is worthy of me making some excuses for. It's worthy of me bitching a little bit for. So Patrick Mahomes, absolutely abysmal, terrible, didn't give me enough points, and it's not what I'm looking for out of Patrick Mahomes. I expected a quarterback that's, one, not going to get injured. He's done that. Two, that's going to give me some consistent points. He's done that. All right, for the most part, he's done that. But week 3, he doesn't. All right, and now they're getting there. They're getting there. But at the same time, I got to see a lot more, especially you're beating a terrible New York Giants team that is completely abysmal. All right. And I had my crystal ball out the other night, and I set it up, and I was talking to it, and I was feeling the chakras and the vibrations of the environment around me, and I knew Jackson Dart was going to be the starter going into week 4. Okay, playing the Chargers, and I knew that. So what did I do? I tweeted it. I've never seen a quarterback crumble so bad ever, really. And you're looking at a quarterback. I'm talking about Russell Wilson. I'm talking about the New York Giants. And what was collateral damage of that? Malik Neighbors. Absolutely terrible. I mean, come on. You got to let the guy eat. Now, I get they got you in triple coverage, and passing against the Kansas City Chiefs is not an easy task. But come on. You're playing the National Football League. You got to find a way. And you got to get rid of the football. Okay, that's something I have zero patience for. You're under center or you're in the shotgun. Get the ball, figure out what you're going to do with it, whether that's throwing the ball away, whether that's running the ball, which he did a lot of times, and it just wasn't working out. Sometimes it worked out for him, but more times than not, there was somebody that was open where I would have rathered he threw a pick than try to run it and maybe get 3 yards. And next thing you know, you're looking at a 3rd and long, and you do it again, and it's a 3 and out. It's a constant thing. And you're wondering why you had 9 points. And one of those was a tutty, by the way. But you could argue that was a fluke. Okay, playing a very, I don't want to say crumbling, but they were trembling. You were playing a trembling Chiefs team at home. You got to be better than that. You got to show me more than that. And really, I could give a shit less if the Giants won that game. Brian Dable, I think he's trying to figure things out. I give him credit for putting Jackson Dart in there. I don't know if I made an early prediction or not, but I said, it might have been on this show, it might have been on DCP. I said Jackson Dart, with how he played and how he performed in the preseason, he will be starting at some point. It was rumored that he was on the heels of Russell Wilson. We've said this in a previous show. This probably was a couple weeks ago now. But now that's rearing its ugly head. Now we're seeing the writing on the wall. And I hate to say it because we're talking about Russell Wilson. He seems like he has his athleticism about him. He seems like he has his mind. He's of sound mind. But at the same time, he's lost his football IQ. So you got to make a change. And people were saying, damn, maybe we give him another week or two. But no, Brian Dable, he's seen this story before. He wants to make these changes before they go, it might be 1-6 before they even get a win. Okay, then you're fighting an uphill battle for the rest of the season. You got some tough games ahead of you. You got to make these changes early. Get the young man in there. Get him some regular season reps. What happens when you have pressure? Either breaks pipes or makes diamonds. I almost said breaks diamonds. Wouldn't that be something? It breaks pipes or makes diamonds. So we're going to see one or the other this coming week. Okay? It's a 1:00 game. Whether or not the spread has came out yet, we have yet to see. I'm sure it's going to move a little bit. But keep an eye on that game. And the Chargers are probably going to be favored in that game, even playing at the New York Giants. Just some food for thought. So think about that. Okay, you got the Vikings and the Steelers. You got the Saints and the Bills. Listen, the Bills are playing great. They gave me a little bit of a question mark when they played the Dolphins. Not going to lie. That had me questioning some things. But listen, it is what it is. And you came out with the dub. That's all that matters. Then you rewind. Let's rewind back to week 1 and see how they played the Ravens. See how close of a game that was. How much they had to fight tooth and nail. You talk about an uphill battle. That was a hell of an uphill battle for the Buffalo Bills in week 1. They beat the Ravens by a point. And then fast forward to week 3, the Lions absolutely mopped the floor with the Baltimore Ravens at their place. Okay, let's just talk about the Lions for a quick second. And you know this more than anything. A lot of you people know this. That I'm not going to toot the horn of the Detroit Lions for no reason. But this, I think, is worth some tooting of the horn. So these guys are playing poise. These guys are hitting hard. These guys are running downhill. All right. And now I still stand behind my previous statements of Jared Goff not being the most athletic quarterback, not really finding a way out of sticky situations all the time. I didn't say every single time, but all the time. When he has to, use his feet, use his legs, use his lower body, maybe even get rid of the ball. Okay, a similar problem that Russell Wilson has. Now I get the pockets crumbling. I get you're being pursued by 300-pound D linemen. I get it. But find something to do with the ball. Now, as soon as you snap, and I'm no expert when it comes to the quarterback position by any means. Okay, I played quarterback in 8th grade, and that's about all I got. But let this be said, let this be known. When you hike the ball, you have a play set in mind. You have a good idea, unless it's a deep pass, unless it's a wheel route, unless it's a fade, unless it's a Hail Mary. And really, even then, you should know. Within the first 2 seconds, 2 to 2.5 seconds of that ball being snapped, whether you're under center or whether you're in a shotgun, whether you're doing a play action or whether you're just dropping back, you know within the first 2 to 2.5 seconds where the ball should be. Okay, if it's anything past 3 seconds, then the play is blown up, 1. The coverage is impeccable, so our receivers aren't open. Or 3, we don't know what the hell we're doing. So figure it out, throw the ball away, even get a grounding call. I don't care, but you can't be getting sacked for 10, 15-yard losses when you're trying to sit in the pocket for 20 minutes. You can't do it, okay? Maybe Brady could get away with that. Maybe last year's Detroit Lions could get away with that. And tell you what, a lot of great individuals have filled the spots that have been vacated in that Detroit Lions offensive line. That was a big question mark for me. That was a big question mark for Robert. And a lot of people. We were concerned about the Detroit Lions offensive line. They've proven to check out pretty well. The defense has also stepped up. Okay, getting the amount of sacks they got on Lamar Jackson at Baltimore, at a veteran team. John Harbaugh knows this team. He knows how to coach. He knows this arena. To do that at their place and basically give them a touchdown at the end of it and still win by 8, that's impressive. That's worth some accolades. And I will give credit where credit's due. I always will. So that just has to be said. I understand we're burning a lot of time here. So we're going to give you a preview. And once we get the lineups, we'll give you more of an insightful analysis of the Ryder Cup. But first of all, let's just talk about the Ryder Cup a little bit. It's coming up this Friday. It's only Wednesday. It's only Wednesday, guys. It's coming up this Friday. And a lot of people don't know how the Ryder Cup works. So there's a How It Works section of the Ryder Cup website. I highly encourage you to take a look at it. And I'll read it for you now. What is the format of the Ryder Cup? Unlike standard stroke play golf, the Ryder Cup is a match play competition. There are 28 points on offer over 3 days, and the first past 14 points wins. Should the match end in a 14-14 draw, the previous winner retains the trophy. Previous winner is Team Europe. If you win more holes than your opponent, you score a point for your team. If the match is tied, then you earn half a point for your team. During the first 2 days, the players compete as pairs in 2 different formats, foursomes and 4-balls. In 4-balls, every player plays their own ball, and whoever scores the lowest individual score wins the hole. If the 2 lowest scores are the same, then the hole is tied. In foursomes, players alternate shots. Again, the lowest score wins the hole, and if the scores are the same, then the hole is tied. Simple enough, right? Sunday sees 12 singles matches take place where players go directly head-to-head. Just like foursomes and 4-balls, the lowest score wins the hole, and if the scores are the same, then the hole is tied. So it's a match play smorgasbord with individual formats lined up within match play. So you got match play as the umbrella, and then you got singles, four balls, and foursomes, all under the umbrella of match play. For my golfer people out there, they'll know what that means. So it's basically a match play event. I love it so much. I love it so much because it's truly hole by hole. And while you have to climb yourself out of a hole, no pun intended, you might have to, you have a new opportunity to score without getting lapped, without getting multiple strokes lost on every hole. You have opportunities to claw back, given the amount of holes allows for it. So it's a great format. It's a great weekend of golf, and the odds are forever changing. These are the live odds as of September 22nd. USA minus 146 to win, and Europe is plus 124 to win. Obviously, we're playing in the U.S. Last Ryder Cup in 23. We're playing in Rome, so that's home turf for Team Europe. Bethpage Black is really a tough course no matter where you're from. Now, have it be known. We're not going to get into individual stats, individual teams, pairings. Once we get the pairings, we'll do that. But what we're going to do today is discuss the combination of the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. PGA Tour and LIV, foes become friends? ? Is that the truth of the matter? Because let's just look at Team Europe real quick. You got several PGA Tour golfers on this team. Ludwig Oberg, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, Tyrrell Hatton, Victor Hovland, Shane Lowry, Bobby McIntyre, Rory McIlroy, Justin Rose, Sepp Straka. Okay? All PGA Tour affiliated. This is funny because there's a parallel to be drawn on the USA team. You have an outlier in here. That stands out. Jon Rahm. Okay, Jon Rahm is on Team Europe. Now, I don't know this for sure, but I want to know how the allegiance worked. I mean, is it Team Europe completely open style, similar to a major, where it's not sanctioned by the PGA Tour? That is yet to be known. Is the Ryder Cup treated as a major? Is it treated as an auxiliary event? Because if it's not sanctioned by the PGA Tour, then anybody can play. Any swinging you-know-what can play. And that's what I'm guessing is the case here. I do know that several PGA Tour golfers have quite a bit of animosity towards the LIV golfers. Okay? Because it's just these guys don't mesh together. These guys don't play together. They don't understand the parallels, which there's few. And really, what it boils down to, and it would boil down to this for me as well, is the allegiance to the tour. That started everything. This tour made golf what it is, the PGA Tour. Okay, and now you see the LIV Tour begin to kind of peak and plateau a little bit, especially after we realized Greg Norman, the prior CEO of LIV Golf, has stepped down. So what does the future hold for the LIV Golf Tour? Let's say LIV ceases to exist. Then what happens to all the golfers? Will they just be welcomed back with open arms like the prodigal son back to the PGA Tour? I can't see that happening. And I can't see if it does happen, if it is allowed by for whatever reason. I can't see these individuals being welcomed back with open arms from the ones that stayed loyal to the tour. Okay, so without getting too much into the weeds, let's look at Team USA. You got Sam Burns, Patrick Cantlay, Harris English, Ben Griffin, Russell Henley, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, J.J. Spawn, Scotty Scheffler, JT, Cameron Young, their captain, Keegan Bradley. Okay, you go to the vice captains if you want. But who else do you have? You got Big Bryson. You got Bryson DeChambeau on Team USA. No, I'm not mad about it. Okay, because listen, if the Ryder Cup is what it is, and I think the powers that be would have prevented it from happening if it wasn't allowed. Maybe they were only allowed one live golfer. Okay, I don't know. These are conversations that hide behind closed doors that I was involved with, unfortunately. But for the sake of the USA winning, and for the sake of the USA raising that trophy at the end of the day, then I'm all for it. But how do the PGA Tour players react? How do they treat Bryson? I mean, he is a teammate. He had to have been chosen by Keegan Bradley. You know, if Keegan Bradley wasn't the team captain, then and if he didn't choose Bryson, then Bryson wouldn't be on this team. That's just how it is. So these things have to be considered. They have to be brought into the conversation. No matter how redundant they are, no matter how unimportant they are, we have to talk about them. No, I'm all for it. Let me just reiterate. I'm all for it. I'm for the competition. I really wish there wasn't so much animosity between the PGA Tour and LIV. I wish they could coexist and live happily ever after together in coexistence. But I also wouldn't be mad if LIV ceased to exist. I'm a loyalist when it comes to the PGA Tour. When it comes to golf, I'm a loyalist. So let it be known. Let it be shouted from the rooftops that this is going to be a great event. Okay, but these things have to be considered because these are the underlying issues. There's a lot of PGA Tour players that have beef with LIV players. That's just the reality of it. That's the truth of the matter. Now, as a spectator from the outside looking in, how do we react? Do we ignore the allegiance to whichever tour they decide to play for? Or do we think about it? Because at the end of the day, it's Team USA versus Team Europe, and you're playing on home soil. So no matter how you feel, whether you're in support of everyone choosing their own destiny and playing for whichever tour they want, or if you hate LIV with a burning passion, you're playing for the PGA Tour, and it burns you to your core to know that a lot of your fellow golfers, colleagues, jump ship, and now they play for LIV. And this has been the case for years now. This is an old conversation. You have to put that all behind you because you're playing for something larger. And that's Team USA versus Team Europe. Damn, I'm excited for this event. It's just a great showmanship of the game of golf. It's a great feature that we get to enjoy and to witness the US versus Team Europe. It's a sight to see. Now, it's been said, obviously Europe, they hold the cup and they will retain the cup with 14 points. The US needs 14 and a half to clinch. Who's going to win? Obviously, a lot of people, the odds don't speak for this. The odds narrowly favor the US. But a lot of people will say that Team Europe has the edge. They have the better golfers. They have the better team cohesion. They have more of a will to win. Here's Sobo's take. We'll let it speak for itself. Sobo's words. Here's my take on the Ryder Cup. Europe, I think, wins. US has too many youngsters. Europe has lots of experience. Thomas or Bryson will lead the US. Rory and Lowry, if teamed, is big trouble. Love Fleetwood's fire. He's going to be dangerous too. Fans are critical for the US. Can't get down big early. Now, that's very well said. And you got to have bold takes, right? Obviously, nobody wants to sit here and be like, yeah, Team Europe's going to win. And playing at Bethpage, you could call it home turf. But everyone on Team Europe, they've played this course before, more than likely. Okay, they're familiar with Oakmont. They're familiar with Pinehurst. They're familiar with a lot of these courses that are in the same vein, per se. Maybe not the same exactly, identically, but in the same vein as Bethpage Black. So these things have to be considered. And a lot of U.S. players that are playing the PGA Tour, they're not going overseas a hell of a lot, unless it's for the British, unless they're playing a couple European Tour events. They're really not going overseas a hell of a lot. Now, a lot of these guys from Europe, they play on the PGA Tour. I'd say 96% of Team Europe plays on the PGA Tour. So they're playing a lot of these courses in the U.S. That's why it's really hard to establish playing in the U.S. being a home team advantage. It doesn't exist. It's not a factor. Now, Fleetwood is still playing hot, playing real hot. He's going to be trouble. Lowry can pull a great round off. Rory's going to be good. Okay, now these guys want to win. It's a brutal hatred when it comes to this event. There is a lot of competition. There's a lot of rivalry that comes alive when it comes to the Ryder Cup. So it's just excitement all around. Now, I love Ben Griffin. I love Bryson. He didn't show me a hell of a lot a couple weeks ago, but I love Bryson. Harris English, amazing golfer. I'll tell you who's going to be a threat for Team US, and that's JJ Spawn. He is playing crazy golf. Crazy golf. He's going to do great things. JT, I'm expecting big things from him. Obviously, Scotty he set the bar too high to not play amazing. He cannot play poorly. And the last sanctioned tournament that I watched, Scotty and Ben Griffin going at it. I wanted Ben Griffin to push that to a playoff so bad. It wasn't in the cards. Didn't happen. But you talk about the talent on the U.S. side, and it exists. But how will they perform? It comes down to, listen, all these guys are professional golfers. They know how to play the game of golf. Who's going to show up? It's the same thing as football. Who's going to show up? Who's going to take the course? Who's going to take the tee box and say, this is my event. This is my tournament. I'm going to go out and win it for my countrymen. I'm going to go out and win it for my livelihood and for my career as a golfer. I'm going to go out and do it, get it done. That's who's going to win. Who has a better team cohesion, better team chemistry? That's what scares me about Team Europe, is these guys are very tight. These guys are very aligned. They're on the same wavelength when it comes to thought processes and execution. All right. There's a reason they won it in Rome 2 years ago. So these things have to be thought about. I think it's going to be tight, but I got to ride with my boys. I got to take Team USA because, listen, and I know it was said, I know I say this is basically it's the cornerstone of gin, really. Bet with your head, not with your heart. And I'm not making exceptions here. I think the talent is equal. I'm not going to ride the favorites of the odds. I think this shifts even more to the middle before the first tee on Friday. But who shows up? Who comes to play? I think the weapons will outweigh the pre-match ideologies, and that might be confusing. But looking back on this, following the tournament, it's got to be said, the talent is there. The talent is there. So we'll leave it at that. This is an early projection. Obviously, give me Team US. I'm not giving any player props, not giving any individual performance boosts or prop bets, anything like that. We don't have the pairings yet. That's going to bring a lot of things into play. That might even skew the overall odds. So once we get the pairings tomorrow night, a lot more will come into view. We'll see a clear picture following the pairings being announced tomorrow. So we will leave it at that. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to check us out on social media, ginsportsnetwork.com. Find us on IG at ginsportsnetwork, and find me on Twitter and IG at gincommish. We'll see you here next time. Thank you so much for tuning into the Gin Sports Network podcast. I'm your host, as always, John J. II. Have a great night.